an absolute blast doing it, and so I figured, why not try doing another one and just see how it goes? So I hope everybody is doing well. Please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing, and let me know if there's anything you want to talk about, any thoughts, any ideas. This is one of those, don't like to sleep at night, so why not jump on stream and see what people want to talk about? I do these streams talk about Freemasonry, but if you can't, if you're like me and you like to stay up late, don't like to sleep, then maybe this will be a fun stream for you. And I'm happy that my YouTube is once again working well. It was being a pain in the butt this afternoon, but looks like the mobile stream is back. So let's give it a few minutes and see who joins. I'll give it a bit of time. Yesterday, like I said, I had a great stream. I had a lot of people joining. It was a lot of fun. It was wonderful to have so many people joining. So I'd love to do it again, have some more fun. Don't forget, on the weekend, on Saturday at midnight, I do my midnight movie watch-alongs. That's on my other channel, so that'll be fun as well. But for now, let's give it a bit of time and let's see who jumps in. Don't forget, we have our Patreon. We have our Patreon sale right now, or discount offers. Two, 3D69. But let's give it some time. Let's see who joins tomorrow at 1 p.m. I'll be back on my Eastern time. I'll be back on my normal stream time. That is the Ask Us Anything stream. So by the way, I got my 10 days of 10 Masonic journal prompts we're doing on the Twitter. This is the question for today. If anybody wants to maybe take this as a jumping off point to have their talk. I could actually get this thing. But let's give it some time and let's see if we can get anybody joining. By the way, on a side note, just talking, waiting for see who shows up. I watched the newest episode of Leverage Redemption, episode 9 of season 3. It was really, really good. So I was very fond of it. Well done to all involved. I love the Leverage Redemption show. I think it's great. And also, I was at the Windsor Masonic Temple in Temple Blooms for the 43 Stages of Grieving, which is a great play. And wishing them all the best in the coming 2 weekend production that they have. But for now, let's just wait. Let's see who joins. And anything you guys want to talk about, just let me know. Just going to give it some time. Let's see who joins us. Jump in the chat, say hello. Let me know how it's going. And if you want to hang out with me tonight, because I can't sleep, so I figured I'd be up and do some live streaming. welcome. Hope you guys are having a great night. I couldn't sleep, so figured I'd come on here, do another live stream. Yesterday's 1 a.m. live stream was an absolute blast. We had a ton of people join, and it was wonderful to have so many people come on. So I figured, you know what? I'll do another live stream today just to see how it goes and just to see if there might be any more night owls up like I am right now, and see if they're going to talk about Freemasonry. I put in the journal prompt. If you feel stuck in your Masonic career, what's one small action you can take around how it's significant that could open a path forward and make you feel less stuck? Maybe answer that question. If you're not a Mason and maybe you have questions about Freemasonry, I'd love to try and answer those as best as I could. Any thoughts you have, positive, negative, or neutral, just let me know, and I will do my best to answer. We can also talk about trending topics or, anything else we want to chat about. So, by the way, if you live in Windsor, Essex, Detroit, Southern Ontario, and you can make your way down to Windsor tomorrow, May 30th, 7 o'clock. 43 Stages of Grieving. It's going to be a great show. I do remember you. Is it BB? Or Baby? How's it going? Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're having a great night, or if you're in a different time zone, a great day, or a great whatever time it is. I hope things are going well. I hope that you will hit that like button if you haven't done so yet, and you'll let me know how you're doing. Maybe you can, I'm not sure if you hit the subscribe button last night, but if you didn't, hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, let me know how it's going. Let me know if you have any questions about Freemasonry, what you think of the journal prompt. You could even apply that journal prompt in there to just your life in general. Maybe you're feeling stuck in your life in other areas outside of Freemasonry. Let me know maybe ways you can feel less stuck, or just talk whatever you want. I'm happy to just hang out. But let's give it a bit of time. Let's see if anybody else finds the stream. Like I said yesterday, I had a blast with so many people joining that I figured might be kind of fun to once again do a stream tonight. See if we get any new people, new audience members. That could be a lot of fun. I have my personal YouTube channel as well, which might be worth going on to. Cameron Anderson. That one I tend to talk more about scary movies, post videos of travel, things like that. So. And by the way, BB, I don't know if you know about Patreon or know what Patreon is, but if you want, you can support me on Patreon. I would truly appreciate it in my efforts to explore the ways in which Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located. But I hope that you are doing well. Once again, I'll leave you that Patreon account. You can even do it for free, although if you can, one of the different tiers, you can do that as well. But patreon.com/square and compass. Looks like there aren't as many people up late tonight as there were in nights previous, but that's okay. Let's give it a few minutes and let's see who jumps on. Maybe give it a bit of time. Maybe it'll take a few more minutes for some more people to start showing up. I was good. I had a good day today. I was at the Windsor Masonic Temple and helped out with a production they're having of a play, which is really cool to see. So that was fun. I always love it when our Masonic buildings are used for arts and culture and things of that nature. I think it's important that people have memories of our buildings outside of just Masonic events. They need to be community events as well. I'm a true believer in that. But what about you? How was your day? Anything exciting happen? It was cool. It was a really great day, so I had a lot of fun. Good. I'm glad you went to the store. I hope it was fun. Sometimes going to the store can be a really good time. So I hope it was a lot of fun, and I hope you had a good time doing a lot of stuff. Sometimes days like that, which are really productive, can feel really good. To get whatever it is done you need to get done. That can be a really good feeling. By the way, did you also the other thing is I don't know if you have a Medium account, if you know what that is. That is basically like YouTube for writing, where you can write your thoughts down and kind of share with people. So I also have a Medium account. If you want to follow me there, you can as well. To be on Medium, I mean, you do what your mom says. That's the most important thing, right? You always want to make sure that you are doing whatever your mom tells you to, as you should. Be happy you got your mom. My mom passed away last year, so I miss her. Um, but yeah, Medium is a pretty cool. Medium is just a cool site in some cases. It's a lot of just written content for different different topics and all sorts of different subjects. So Medium's a pretty cool spot. Welcome. If you're just joining us, by the way, please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll jump in the chat, say hello, let me know how it's going. Doing another one of these late night podcasts or late night live streams because I could not get to sleep. So I figured it would be kind of fun to jump on again because I love coffee at midnight, which I have here, and I love staying up late. I appreciate that, but that's okay. It was she was ill, so in some ways it was a blessing that she passed away, so she wasn't suffering anymore. But obviously, I do still miss her. You always miss your mom, so whenever they pass away, you always miss them. Um, that is just kind of is what it is. Honestly, it's one of those things where you don't realize how much you miss them till they're gone. Welcome if you're just joining as always. I hope you guys are having a great night. Jump in the chat, say hello, let me know how you're doing, and let me know if there's anything you want to chat about. When it comes to Freemasonry, any thoughts, any comments? Are you feeling stuck in your Masonic career? It'd be really cool to hear kind of what your thoughts are. If you have, maybe you're feeling stuck just on your daily life somehow. Maybe there's some ways you can be unstuck. I've been asking a few people because I've been learning more about this Jubilee series. I was surrounded. I think it might be really cool if Freemasons took part in a Jubilee surrounded series. I think that would be awesome. So that is something because it's gotten the news lately because of Jordan Peterson and his whole surrounded debacle. But I think it'd be really interesting if they did a Mason versus anti-Masons Jubilee, where it's like 20 anti-Masons, one Mason, and he can make different claims. I think it'd be really cool. Well, then go to sleep, for heaven's sakes. Follow the rules of that. You know, go to sleep. I do appreciate being here, but you got to follow the bedtime rules. Okay, so you got then 17 minutes. That is true. It is not 12:40 yet. Even here, it's 1:23 Eastern. So you're not quite at 12:40 yet. So I guess you still got time. So stick around for as long as you can. But then when you have to go to sleep, then that's no trouble at all. I just appreciate you being here. Getting a good night's rest is important. Something I often fail at myself. Hence I'm doing this stream at 1:25 in the morning, so certainly that is the case for me. But I hope everybody is doing well. Please, if you're just joining, take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know how it's going and if there's anything that you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. But let's give it a bit of time. Let's see if anybody else jumps in the chat. He said yesterday I had a great stream. A lot of people joined, a lot of new audience members, which was wonderful. So I figured maybe try it again and see if there might be some more audience that, like me, are night owls and hang out, late at night. 15 minutes to go. All right. I don't know. Maybe they're just tired. I mean, it's late at night, so yesterday was a great and busy stream, but sometimes you get, a lot of people joining the stream. Sometimes you get nobody joining the stream. In fairness, earlier today I had a heck of a time having my stream, so maybe a lot of people were just annoyed with that. Who knows? But that's okay. We'll just give it some time. We'll see who finds it. There's no rush. Maybe I will even, a good thing you can do is if you can share this on social media, though, that can help, or share it with your friends or whatever it is that can help people find it. Just share it, on socials. I'll share it on the Twitter box. We'll see if some more people can find it that way. But, sometimes you get people, sometimes you don't. That's okay. I just appreciate the opportunity. I will say we do, looks like, have some people watching who are not joining the stream, which is okay. By all means, if you don't want to jump in the chat, that's okay. We can just hang out. Maybe I'll put on a movie or something. We can watch that. I keep meaning to play some video games at some point. We shall see. See, I got 4 right now showing up on mine. CD is here. Speaking of the chat, what is up? I'm doing well. Couldn't sleep, so figured I'd do a live stream. I did one of these last night at 1 a.m. and we had a great turnout. So I figured, you know what? Let's try to do another one. Let's see how it goes. Just for fun. I may even go on my personal account after and do this, just to see if there's any audience floating around at 1 a.m. who enjoys chatting like I do. But I hope that you are doing well. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you'll take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button. And I hope everybody is doing well and having a great night. By the way, if you're in Windsor, check out the Windsor Masonic Temple. Temple blooms tomorrow. They are having a great production of 43 Stages of Grieving, which I'm looking forward to being there myself and checking out. The numbers go up and down, so we'll see. Maybe I'll do this till 2 a.m. We'll see if we can get some people joining. If not, that's no worries. I'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Ask Us Anything stream, where we'll talk about anything we want. Or I'll take any questions. Dad, what are you doing up? It's midnight. It's 12:30 in the morning your time. You're too old to be up this late. How did the call go with your doctor, by the way? All good with your hearing aids? I bet you there's some Masonic evacuees there as well, or some Masons who are evacuees. Um, I hope everybody is okay. Do you get any like smoke coming in from the forest fires? In Winnipeg, in Manitoba, there's always wildfires up north, but I think these ones are a lot bigger. Interesting enough, in Los Angeles, when they had the wildfires there, or California, Los Angeles, I did a Medium article, or I think I wrote something in Medium about the efforts that Masons in California were taking to help those affected by the fires. You know, people needing a place to sleep. Masonic lodges were open. People needing a place, like firefighters needing a place to keep their belongings and kind of like a staging area to get food and water before going out and fighting the fires. Buildings are being used for that, as well as collection places. So, okay, so do your follow up. And don't forget what I always say, what my doctor always says, you don't tell your doctor tells you. So take that follow up in 9 months. And tomorrow at 1 p.m., don't forget, I'll be on the Ask Us Anything stream, so that'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, the California wildfires were. Hello, BB. We still see you there. I know you gotta head to bed pretty soon, so but there's no we're happy to have you join. Like I said yesterday, I had a jam-packed stream. Give it a bit of time. We'll see if anybody tracks it down. There's still, like I said, no rush, but we'll see. And if they do, if they have any, there's a lot of really great questions I thought yesterday about Freemasonry. I enjoyed having a lot of people on. There's a couple of people on there who had family members thinking of joining Freemasonry, so they had questions. So I was happy to do my best to try to answer those. That was a lot of fun. I posted a lot of the links to some of those chats. So yeah, 8 minutes to go. Like a countdown to when you got to go to sleep. I agree. I mean, it's okay. I don't want to take it too far. It's your body, it's your life, so you should always be willing to ask questions. There's nothing wrong with that. But, I think overt suspicion is probably never a good or healthy thing. So, doctors became doctors for a reason, you know? And it makes no sense. They'd have no interest in giving you bad advice because if they kill you, they don't get if they kill you or don't make you feel better, why would you ever go back to them? So, all right, I'm gonna be back in a moment, guys. I just need to grab some food because I'm hungry. I need a late night snack. back, don't worry. These sandwiches are left over from a Masonic meeting, so that's kind of cool. You know, Freemasonry has been feeding bachelors since the dawn of time, I'm pretty sure. We talk about social safety net. I'll tell you this: Freemasonry is a social safety net for us Masons who are bachelors. I don't want to cook for ourselves. You know, I will say, yesterday, what seemed to really get the chat going was when people started talking about whether I was good looking or not good looking. So if you want to, CD, if you want to call me ugly or, handsome, go ahead, do it in the chat. That might help get some more people into this thing. I hope everybody, though, is doing well. Please let me know. Like I said, I couldn't sleep again, so I figured, you know what? I like to do these live streams. They're fun, so I figured I'd do another one. So you went with a Matt Damon. Okay, so you said neither then. You could have said I was handsomer than Matt Damon. Would that have been hard, CD? Would that have been hard? Well, then be careful. Maybe, don't go outside too much. I don't know if it affects your breathing at all. I'm sure it affects people with asthma and stuff, their breathing, going outside. So just take care of yourself, and 17,000 evacuees. But credit to Winnipeg and credit to Manitoba for organizing that evacuation. It can't be easy to evacuate 17,000 people. And credit to Winnipeg for taking them in, because it can't be easy to do that either. I wonder, out of curiosity, I'm just typing into Google right now. Freemasonry helping those affected by forest fires. I wonder if there's any Masonic charitable efforts. "1 minute to go," says BB. All right, well, 1 minute to go, then yes, go to sleep. But we still, it's been wonderful to have you join. We got 5 people according to my stats watching, so please jump in the chat, say hello. I don't see anything in particular about Masons doing any charitable efforts. I mean, Masons do, let me rephrase that, Masons do a ton of charitable efforts in Manitoba, and it's incredible the things that they do. Cancer cards, for example, but I don't see anything about Manitoba Masons specifically helping with the forest fires. But I'm sure many individual Masons probably work in areas in rescue management field and are probably helping with evacuations or medical or whatever it is. And I'm sure many other Masons are donating. So good for the Canadian Armed Services. I feel like that is something, it's nice to see armed services being used to help people in our country, as well as obviously everything they do to protect us and defend us. Though my preference would obviously be I'd rather our armed forces never need to go to war and exclusively help our own citizens. But I guess that'd be a perfect world. CD, I get called ugly all. I agree. If I'm sure, CD, you are a very handsome fella. I can tell by the way you type and the words you use, you are a handsome fella. And I guess everybody can judge for themselves how I look, whether you think I'm handsome or not. There was this one lady who kept coming on the stream, and she'd always say, your nose is a disaster, your forehead is a disaster. It's like, what did I do, And even my dad won't call me handsome. My dad just says beauty's in the eye of the beholder. There's an implication there. I guess we now know what my dad really thinks of me. Do you mean on the fires? I feel like if they could have done that, they would have done that. I mean, it's probably incredibly hard. I mean, I have no idea what the logistics of fighting a fire are, but I feel like it would be incredibly hard. Like I can only imagine. So, nothing but respect to those people who are fighting fires. I couldn't do it. Even if I had legs, I couldn't do it. I know a lot of wrestlers actually who would travel up north for tours every year. It's called death tours because they go up to the different reserves and stuff. I hope all of the places that they would go to perform are not, are doing okay as well. Welcome if you're just joining us. Thank you for being here. I hope you will hit the like and subscribe button. Couldn't sleep. I figured I'd do another chat because the one I did yesterday I had so much fun in. I figured why not try another? Jump in the chat, say hello. I did my poll question today, which is, have you ever felt stuck in Freemasonry? And if you have felt stuck in your Masonic journey, what type of things did you do to get yourself unstuck? But you can apply that outside of Masonry. Just have you ever felt stuck in life? And if that has ever been the case, what are some of the ways that you managed to get yourself feeling unstuck? I think it's a really good question because I know a lot of times in life. Sean Hiller? So this is not an Illuminati chat, Sean, but thank you for being here. This is a Masonic chat, Freemasonry, and those are not the same thing, despite many people thinking they are. Sean, I don't know if I'm assuming you're new to the chat then. I hope you'll be so kind as to hit the like and subscribe button, but also let me know. See, so you're one of them, Sean. I have been a Freemason myself since 2007, so approximately 20 years. I this guy, LOL. No, I'm happy to have Sean. I love talking about this stuff. I am a current worshipful master and a past master. I'm also a member of the Scottish Rite, an 18th degree there. And I did a quick, napkin calculation. And I've been to approximately 2,800 meetings in my career, Masonic career, meetings and events. So, I promise you they are not the same thing. I know a lot of people think they are. Sean, if you're interested, I can kind of explain to you a little bit of the differences, again, at least from my understanding. And I appreciate you being here. You're just a lost soul rounding through the internet, so it's wonderful to have you join. I truly appreciate it. Um, so the Illuminati, usually when people refer to the Illuminati, what they're referring to is the Bavarian Illuminati. The Bavarian Illuminati was started by a gentleman by the name of Adam, and I always mispronounce his last name. Weishaupt is how I usually pronounce it. He was a Freemason. He did not like Freemasonry because he thought A, it was too expensive, and B, he thought it was not esoteric enough or not like mystical enough. So he left and he started his own organization called the Illuminati. And he, you know, uh, uh, did kind of ape or steal some of the Masonic rituals and stuff and kind of made it into something he liked, and started it in, I believe, I might be getting the date wrong, Sean, but I believe it was 1888 when he started it. And then it didn't take off for a lot of reasons. Part of it is because, why join? It was basically the Kmart version of Freemasonry anyway, so why bother joining it? Or like the Timu version of Freemasonry in a lot of ways. So like, why would you want to join it? From what I understand, Adam was not a particularly charismatic fellow, and so it just kind of died out. I mean, to my understanding, the Illuminati just does not exist as an organization at all anymore. Some people say there are still because there are people who every now and then will get, will decide to start their own club and they'll call it like Cameron's Illuminati Club. For whatever reason, they like the sound of the name. So those things do happen, but it doesn't exist in a manner that is like, any type of organization that exerts any type of influence. And so, yeah, it does seem like conspiracy theorists sometimes do tend to lump them together or argue Illuminati still exist or have infiltrated Freemasonry, but that is not the case. And the other thing that kind of causes that confusion is a lot of scammers. I don't know why. And Courtney, good to see ya. Will do this thing where they'll create like a fake group and they'll combine the terms Masonic and Illuminati. So they'll what they'll do is they'll spam like 1,000 people with this Facebook message, and it'll say something like, "You've been selected to join the Masonic Order of the Illuminati. All you need to do is send us $500, and you'll be part of this amazing Masonic Illuminati club." And I've had people call me as a Mason and say, like, "I got invited to join this club. Is it legit?" Right? And so a lot of people, because they get those messages from scammers, or those scammers will create, Facebook profiles or whatever it is, they will, they'll believe them to be one and the same. I mean, you can. It depends what their hours are, right? I mean, when you it depends what their hours are, and because there are some Masonic buildings like Philadelphia, for example, that they're not just a Masonic, well, they're a Masonic building, but they're also a tourist destination, and they're kind of a part of the downtown. So those might have like office hours and administrators you can go in and talk to. There are other Masonic buildings where they may just open themselves up for meetings, for membership, and they may not have public events. So it just depends on the business hours of the building. I mean, you can always send them a letter first to ask to be in touch. But yeah, there's no or knock on the door. What I always tell Masons when they're traveling is, if you're traveling somewhere for work or vacation and you stumble across a Masonic building, like, just go knock on the door and see if anybody's there. Can't hurt. Especially if you have questions about Freemasonry, even if you're thinking of joining or not, even if you're not even thinking of joining or anything, but just have questions, you can knock on the door and see if anybody's there. I once upon a time went to visit a Masonic lodge and ended up accidentally setting off the burglar alarm. I blamed them because they didn't lock their door, so it's their own fault. Um, I just turned the door, it opened, and then this alarm just starts going off, and it's like, you should have locked the door, and it's your own fault. High altitude, welcome, thanks for joining. Religion and politics are banned topics when a lodge is in session. Obviously, outside of a lodge, like here, I'm not in a lodge. I can talk about my religious beliefs, my political beliefs. I can talk about any of that stuff, right? In a lodge, though, when the lodge is taking place and there's a meeting, you cannot discuss religion and you cannot discuss politics for the duration of the meeting. But high altitude, I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you're having a great day, or great night, I should say. It's probably like 11 o'clock your time, I think. Thank you, Sean. I hope you'll be so kind, Sean, as to hit that like and subscribe button. I would truly appreciate it. And thank you so much for being here. I'm very happy that your lost soul wanderings brought you here. I hope I managed to answer some of your questions well. Let me know if you have any more questions, or if there's anything else I can ask that might be, or anything else you can ask that I can maybe also try to answer. But I do appreciate. Thank you so much, High Altitude. Yeah, it's funny. Yesterday I did this stream at like 1 a.m. and it was just ended up being really well attended. So I figured, you know what? Why not try another 1 a.m. stream and see how it goes? That's not going to stop me from doing my 1 p.m. stream tomorrow. On the Fridays, these are the Ask Us Anything streams. But yeah, I hope you are doing well. Let me know what's good in your lodge. It's funny. I remember you on. I forget when it was, like a week ago, and we had Buddy from Utah on. So it was great to have two Utonian Masons on. I love coffee at midnight. I think coffee at midnight is the best tasting coffee. Apparently there are. I mean, I'm one of them, that's for sure. So, and I like being a night owl. I like 4 in the morning. I think that's the best time. Kind of feels like the world is turning on. So, It's a nice feeling. I don't know. I've always been able to have coffee at midnight and sleep. By the way, Coffee at Midnight, on a side note, is a great song. It's a song by a band called Stand Atlantic or Stained Atlantic. It's really, really good. So if you get the chance, or is it Stand? It's Stand Atlantic. Um, if you get the chance, type into YouTube later on Stand Atlantic Coffee at Midnight, and yeah, you can check out their awesome song. Raining Cats and Dogs. That's fun. Well, I hope you like the rain as much as I do, but I hope you're also keeping yourself nice and dry inside. I just was just for fun. I was curious. It looks like Stained Atlantic is actually doing some touring. They're actually coming to Toronto on June 4th. I'll check it out. I'll be walking around like a yes. Go to sleep, Dad. Go to sleep. But do your baking. I hope it tastes good. Barn owl. Wow, that is. Are you from Texas, Sean? Because barn owl makes me think you might be a Texan. But that's really cool. Thank you so much for being here. Once again, I appreciate it and thank you for checking it out. Oh, I can imagine. After not drinking Coca-Cola for 2 years to then drink for the first time, I'm sure it tasted absolutely incredible. So that is awesome. I'm sure it tasted awesome. Did you find that you felt like the caffeine effects more? Like had jittery hands or something? Because I would think maybe the first time drinking caffeine after 2 years might might make you a little bit more jittery than perhaps normal. White chocolate. Emphasize on there, white chocolate. I've heard the white chocolate isn't even chocolate. Half hawk. At what point should we stop seeking answer from a fallen world that crucified a perfect man? Asks Half Hawk. And M phase on. So M phase on white chocolate. I know it's not real chocolate, but I love it. Half Hawk. I mean, then that's getting into really philosophical discourse, right? As someone who I believe in a supreme being, but I'm not a Christian myself, um, I mean, I believe that, Jesus was a real human being who was crucified along with many others, but I suspect that the right because we may something as supreme being, I suspect that there may not be answers to find in a strange way. Somebody once said, and I like this quote a lot, they studied ants. I forget the title for the type of person who studies bugs, but an entomologist, I think. But they were that. They studied bugs, insects and stuff. And they said ants have discovered the answer to the question of the meaning of life. That is to not ask the question. I think there might be some truth to that. Oh, Barissimo. Is that the name of the coffee? I would love to check that out. Um, Most beautiful lodge I've attended. Oh my gosh, that's so tough because they're all beautiful in different ways. Yeah, I don't mean to be that guy, but I'm gonna be that guy. Um, 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 so it's so hard because like I think about like the Windsor Masonic Temple, which is my home Masonic temple, and it's beautiful to me because I was a Mason there, so I have those images of it. But Glenview, I have so many fond memories of. Philadelphia was incredible. Detroit is incredible. I've been to Masonic lodges that are basically just converted farmhouses, and they were really beautiful. So, I mean, the most beautiful place that I ever attended anything Masonic was in Puerto Vallarta. That's what I'll say. Most beautiful lodge building, though, that is very tough to say, because I love all the buildings in different ways. So the meaning of life, I would say, Sean, I don't believe there is a meaning of life. I believe there's a meaning of being a Freemason, which the meaning is that the belief that the world can be made better through the practice of brotherly love, relief, and truth. Half Hawk, how does Freemasonry prevent your subconscious biases from misattributing causation? You are throwing a lot of big words at me at 1:55 in the morning, Half Hawk, and I'm not that smart, but I'll try my best to answer these questions. And thank you, by the way, for being here. Everybody who's here, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. I do hope you will hit the like and subscribe button. No, Half Hawk was here before. Half Hawk was here yesterday, and it's wonderful to have him joining. What I would say, there you go, Stanley. I'll have to check it out. What I would say is we all have biases, subconscious or otherwise. Subconscious biases are probably harder to deal with than conscious ones. So, it's like, how could you know what a subconscious bias is, right? If it's subconscious, almost by definition, you wouldn't know what it is. You'd have to almost, that's what therapy is for, or whatever it is, right? What I would say though is Freemasonry helps me recognize my biases by encouraging the use of temperance and prudence. So if something, affects me emotionally in any way, causes me to feel angry, causes me to feel upset, it can be easy to misattribute those causes and say, oh, this event made me upset, this caused me to be upset. But Freemasonry has very stoic qualities to it, and it encourages you to say, no, it's not actually the event that's causing you to be angry, that's causing you to be sad. It's the manner in which you are reacting to it. And so based on that, what is it about yourself and what's in you that causes you to have that reaction? Right? Because at the end of the day, one of the main ways we misattribute causation is by focusing on the events and not the fact that it's our reaction to them that is actually what is causing us however we might be feel. So if that makes any sense. I think Stoicism has a lot of value. Stoicism is absolutely a very Masonic principle. I've actually done 2 interviews with Stoic philosophers about the connections between Freemasonry and Stoicism. Certainly Freemasons, borrowed, stole, were inspired by a lot of Stoic principles. If you check some of my back catalog stuff, Sean, you'll see it there on my interviews with with Stoic Dan. He was a Stoic author, Stoic writer out of Orlando, Florida, which, by the way, I love Orlando, Florida, so. But meditation helps. Meditation, brotherly love, temperance, they all help with seeing the world more clearly. I agree with that 100%. Well, so there's no Freemasons belief. That, asking what do Freemasons believe, Half Hawk, is kind of like asking what do football players believe, right? Because Freemason has no individual doctrine, no universal doctrines. It has ritual, but the ritual is no different than football teams having a practice, right? It's like you do it the way the worship master tells you to do it. You do it the way the coach tells you to do it. That's the ritual. That's the bonding experience. But they don't impart any type of, every Freemason has his own views on philosophical, religious, political questions. Hopefully they have a uniformity and understanding of Masonic history and Masonic kind of lessons, but overarching philosophical ideas, that's going to be individual Mason to Mason. For me personally, what I will say is I believe utilitarianism, if I understand it correctly. I tend to be a believer in utilitarianism, if I have the correct definition. I think that is, I don't know if it's the most ethical framework to guide our actions, but I think it's the most consistent and efficient way to guide our actions. It's the most efficient and the most consistent framework. So charity is a yes. Thank you, though, Hatchut, for being here. I truly appreciate it. I mean, the Masonic ethos, like charity is considered a very important part of Freemasonry, and certainly Masons are encouraged to be charitable. What I would say, though, first of all, is one thing a lot of Masons don't understand about that idea. And by the way, how to investing before you go, you may agree with this. A lot of Masons, unfortunately, over think that that discussion is, saying like be charitable with your money. It's really not. What it's saying is charitable in all ways. Charitable. No worries, Sean. And as always, please hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you for being here. You can be charitable with your time. You can be charitable with your interpretation of things. You can be charitable with forgiveness. You can be charitable with kindness. And you should be, right? So certainly Freemasonry encourages charitable activities. It doesn't necessarily encourage it to maximize happiness and well-being for all affected individuals, at least not in my experience. In my experience, it's more the idea of, charity is important because it is something that will improve both the person giving the charity as well as receiving it, right? Like it blesses him who gives as well as him who receives type of idea, if that makes any sense. Certainly, though, as a byproduct, it will maximize human happiness, right? But there is no yes, agape brotherly love is very important to practice. I would say though, half hawk, I think what you're kind of getting at is like promise of salvation, threat of damnation, in the sense that and forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, half hawk, and let me know. From what I understand, in the Christian tradition, it is not you like no matter how good of a person you are, quote unquote, no matter how many charitable acts you do, no matter how many good things you do, that's not what promises you salvation. What promises you salvation is a belief in Jesus Christ, right? In Freemasonry, there is no promise of salvation nor threat of damnation. So it's not saying, do charitable works and be charitable and you'll make it to heaven, right? That's not the thing. Because Freemasonry has no statements or claims on, where your soul goes. That's up to the individual and his beliefs, right? So, Christians have their beliefs as to, so they would say to like a Christian Freemason, you should be charitable, you should, engage in charitable acts, engage in benevolent acts, because that makes things here on earth better. Your eternal salvation, that's not that's not under the Freemason banner. That's up to you and your beliefs and your understanding of God and your religion and your church, if that makes sense, right? So charity and charitable acts certainly make the world a better place. Down here makes things better. That does not have anything to do with what happens in the afterlife or your salvation, right? As always, I always say, when people say Freemasonry is a religion, one of the things I always say to refute that is Freemasonry makes no claim of salvation, nor does it make threat of damnation, right? Freemasonry doesn't say you need to be charitable or else you'll be, damned to hell. So if that makes any sense, rather Freemasonry just encourages charity because it makes the world a better place. My personal experience with Freemasonry, I mean, it's been a 20-year run, so that's a really complicated question. There's been really wonderful times, there's been really challenging times. Mark David, greetings. Mark, thank you for being here. I hope you will hit the like and subscribe button, Mark. Um, well, I mean, certainly half hawk Freemasonry has been denounced by the Catholic Church, most famously in the 18, I don't remember the year, 1880 something paper written by papal encyclic written by Pope Leo the 13th, Humanum Genus. Um, Honestly, I've talked about that in the past. I think there was a lot of stuff that the Pope got incorrect um, in his work. The biggest one being I mean, it was all incorrect, I thought, but notice the last thing for practicing occult rites, for its secrecy, and for its power. To me, when I read Pope Leo the 13th's work, what I sensed was jealousy based on the fact that Freemasonry was gaining in numbers probably more rapidly than the church. And that seemed to upset the Pope. That's actually kind of what I read between the lines. Like, hey, guys are joining these Masonic lodges, they're not coming out to church anymore. But really, Freemasonry never had nor never has had power in the sense of political power, religious power. It can't start wars, end wars. It can hopefully, if someone is a Freemason and then gets into politics, hopefully some Masonic ideals start to, you know, influence his decisions. But in the same way, if somebody, let's say somebody who's a football player and they become a Freemason, hopefully the ideals that he learned in football, hard work, teamwork, practice, he will apply those in the same way. There's not Masonic beliefs, there's Masonic ideals. Um, if that makes any sense. And as High Altitude Investing says, as a Christian Freemason, I see them work very well together. Um, but I do know that Freemasonry has at different times been looked as, has been given the side eye by different organized religions. I understand there are some Muslim imams who've denounced Freemasonry, but I know Muslim brothers, Christian brothers, including Catholic, First Nations, Indigenous brothers. So, Axie Green, welcome, Axie or Axel. Axel, I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button, please. I'm 2 subscribers away from 2,160 subs. Help me get there. And when people say occult, I mean, occult just means private. Again, you wouldn't consider a family recipe to be a cult, even though a family recipe is kept hidden amongst a family. It's to strengthen the bonds between that family. Yes, I hope, though, you had a great night, and thank you for being here. And thank you, everybody, for joining. Axel, let me know if you have any questions. Yes, many times, Masonic, Courtney, I've had Masonic burnout. Maybe I'm still going through it now, but I just try to remember that there's a value in it, there's a value to it, and it's worth fighting for. And that usually gets me through it without getting too angry or too sad. I see life as a circular pattern of reciprocal perpetuity. Amazed how there's evidence of this from the nucleus of the cell to the burning ball of gas in the sky. I mean, I've heard other people say that, the fact that you see the similarities between the atom with a nucleus and electrons orbiting it to the sun with planets. I mean, there's something there. I definitely can see how there could be something there. There does seem to be, and Freemasonry actually talks about this a little bit, there does seem to be a certain pattern in the universe. So, maybe. I mean, don't forget high altitude. I do think life can be unfair. It's not always a matter of what you get is equivalent to what you give. Because people get cancer and people get sick and, bad things happen to good people, etc., etc. But I do think high altitude, what you said, certainly, if you believe that you will receive what you give to the world, that's probably a healthy attitude to take, and that probably has better outcomes overall. Um, and good outcomes. What are the most negative experiences you've had in Freemasonry? That's a good question. That's a really good question. So, I've been a Mason for 20 years, um, or almost 20 years, 2007. You know, my, it kind of goes back to this idea of burnout and, allowing myself to get to a place. So, like last year, the last couple years, I was working on a couple of big projects regarding our buildings and regarding Freemasonry. And I remember like when I was the most in it, I spent 14 days in a row going to the Masonic building because there's meetings I had to go to. There was just so much stuff to do because I was involved in this massive program, and then I was doing this on the side. Um, and I was at that time in one of my bodies. I was what would be called the second general, junior warden. I was the person responsible for making sure that the food and the refreshments were available for people, right? So I had to make sure to provide food and refreshments and all that good stuff for people there. And I had been working my absolute, and I'm not trying to say this to sound, arrogant or anything, but I had been working really, really hard. And I was absolutely exhausted. And I purchased, I picked up food for the meeting that night, put the food out, and a couple guys who were the normal complainers, and you get that in every Masonic lodge. There's always a couple who will, we're people, we're human beings, and there's people who don't get along, and there's always going to be a couple of people who are maybe more negative or are only happy when they complain. People like that exist, right? So, anyways, I get this food, and a couple guys didn't like it. I forget what the issue was. I think the issue was I didn't have a sufficient amount of vegetarian options, and a couple guys were vegetarian, and it ran out. So, anyways, they're just kind of grumbling about the food. I overheard them, but I just ignored it, right? And the next day I come back, and this is my 14th day in a row, and somebody perfectly innocently came up to me and was like, by the way, when you do your refreshments, you need to have more food or more vegetarian options. And I lost my shit because I was just so tired. And, I was kind of upset that I was there so much more than everybody else and what, blah, blah, blah. And I went on a tirade, the likes of which I think I threatened to like lock the doors and burn the place down. I was just so angry because I was just so tired, right? And really, that's more on me than Freemasonry because I allowed myself to get to that point. And I do, now I can look back on it and kind of laugh at it, and the person I lost my shit on kind of can laugh about it as well. But in that moment, it was no laughing matter. And again, I do look back on it though, and you know what I was able to accomplish in those few years, including what I did on those 14 days in a row. But for that whole time, it was absolutely incredible. And I do take a lot of pride in everything I managed to do. But I definitely was at a point where I was burnt out, exhausted, tired, was not in the mood to hear any criticisms, whether valid or otherwise. And because of all of that, just wasn't hearing it. So I guess that'd be one of my more. But I assume that happens everywhere. I assume there's always going to be times in your life when you dedicate yourself to something and you find it challenging, and you kind of have to find better ways to cope than maybe I did that time. You know, Half Hawk, you have just opened a whole can of worms with that one. I do not believe 9/11 was an inside job. I'm going to go on the record and say 9/11 It's exactly what it said to be. It was Al Qaeda terrorists. So, um, so yeah, Halfhawk, you have opened up a whole can of worms. But I appreciate the question very, 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 very much. And here's why. So one of the biggest challenges that we have in Freemasonry, um, and this is, true. A lot of Masons will say the biggest problem they have is not having enough members. And I actually don't think that's the biggest problem in Freemasonry. I think the biggest problem in Freemasonry is that we don't have sufficient member engagement. Most lodges are fighting to get between 10% to 20% to at the highest 25% of their actual membership. So you may have, 100 people on a list paying dues every year, but maybe at a meeting, if you're lucky, you get 25 of them out. There are some lodges working hard to change that, and nothing but credit and respect to them for that, but that is a challenge. And that got me thinking, Half Hawk, you know, Freemasons come in all personalities. Like if you look at that list of 100 members, they probably have all sorts of different personality types and different personality traits. But it got me thinking, could there be consistent type of personality or pervasive type of personality trait that exists amongst engaged Masons or active Masons? Masons like me who are going out frequently and regularly, do we have certain common types of personality traits? And those members who join but don't attend regularly or stop attending, do they have a certain personality type that maybe is not well suited for Freemasonry? And so what I started doing is asking my Masonic friends, those who were active and those who were engaged and those who showed up, I asked them to take a personality quiz, Brix-Meyer, like the 16 different type quiz, where it's like INFP, whatever it is. I asked them to take that test, and I asked them to, record what their results were. And what's interesting is so far I've got about 12 responses back, but all those personality types were from active Masons like me. So 11 out of the 12, they all had one personality trait in common. They all tested very high for curiosity and open-mindedness. Like I said, 11 of the 12 Masons that took this test, all of them had the personality trait of being, Myers-Briggs, that was it, had the personality trait of being curious and open-minded. Some were introverted, some were extroverted. There were different, like the other ones tend to be a little bit more evenly spread. But again, 11 out of the 12 tested very high for curiosity and open-mindedness. They were intuitive, the N letter. And the one person who tested the opposite of that, it was like 49-51. So they were right on the precipice, right in the middle. They were just slightly more the opposite way. So I do wonder if maybe, see, for me, Freemasons, if you mean just members of a lodge, probably have all sorts of different personality types. But I suspect that there is a consistent type of personality that exists amongst active Masons. And my suspicion is they are all curious and open-minded. And that does make sense, because if you're curious, one likely thing you are going to do is you're going to be more than likely to keep on showing up, because you're going to think you've learned. So you have the N. Welcome back, Buffalo Chicken Wrap. It's great to have you back. Half Hawk, what's interesting is you, based on my very limited research, would have the personality trait that would likely enjoy Freemasonry and would likely be active if you were to join Freemasonry, based on my limited research. Because so let me go through what I'll do is I'll leave a link in the chat so you can find the Medium story and read it yourself. because ENTJ actually popped up pretty frequently as one of the personality traits or types. Here it is. Um, it is, if I recall correctly, and I have it written here, I'm just double checking it. I think it might be the same thing, if I recall correctly. It might be the same as yours. I just need to double check. I know it's hard to use these links, but hopefully you can find it. So my personality type, sorry, was ENFP, known as the campaigner. My friend, who's an active Freemason, his personality type was INFJ. Again, notice the second letter, N. In 2013, there was a Reddit thread which showed most people's personality traits who were active in Freemasonry were INTP. Again, notice the N popping up frequently. And then the people who responded to it, their tests, who are all active, INFP, ENFJ, ESTJ, I could find this thing now. ENTJ, ENFJ, ENFJ. So ENFJ seems like it would be a very, seems like, who knows, maybe you might enjoy Freemasonry. Your personality type would indicate such. But that may not mean Freemasonry per se. That may mean a personality that's more open to group activity and being part of a group and active in a group, whether it be Freemasonry or football teams or churches or mosques, whatever it might be. I try my best to stand out in any crowd. That is what it said. What's a good site? Well, so the Grand Lodge site where you live is the best place to go first. Hopefully you can find some stuff in some of my videos that help you with Freemasonry. Freemasonry for Dummies, Buffalo Chicken Wrap, is also a really great resource. And if you get the chance, I would, check that one out as well. I'm not sure about banned. Sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like on the web, Freemasonry for Dummies is a really good one. You can find that on the web. You should be able to, anyways. Chris Hodap is the author. Kind of works that, and he does a great job with it. I'm 1 subscriber away from 2,160 subscriber. By all means, or I hope you guys will maybe put me over the top. But yeah, Freemasonry for Dummies is a good place to start. And then the second place is, I don't know where you live, but whatever state you're in. Oh, Missouri. You can go to, just type in Missouri Grand Lodge. Mark David, they say some buildings are founded. Does that mean they were found? I'm not sure what that means, Mark. I'm sorry, I can't help you with that one. It depends on so there's 2 types of Masonic meetings that can take place. The first is your business meeting, and some people get that messed up and think that means we're running businesses, but it's not. A business meeting, really, it means administrative building. So what it means, administrative meeting. So what it means is we talk about any bills that need to be paid to maintain the building or the lodge, who is sick, who might need help, who has family who's sick, reading of minutes, paying of accounts, reading of correspondence. Maybe we got a request or a letter in from like a charity who wants a donation, or there's a Masonic event happening and we have the flyer, about that. And then there might be some education, maybe someone has to do a presentation about an important historical Masonic figure. That kind of depends on the lodge and how they want to do it. But those are your administrative meetings. They're basically the administrative tasks necessary for a lodge to function. And either before the meeting or after the meeting, or in both times, you'll have refreshments. You'll have dinner, you'll have food, you'll have drink. The other type of meeting is your initiation and your rituals, where you have candidates either joining Freemasonry or going from, the 1st degree to the 3rd degree. And those are Masonic rituals. They are scripted. And there'll be a degree team set up to perform those rituals for the betterment of the candidate and the lodge, if that makes any sense. Mark David, you can do Freemasonry if you're in a band, that's fine. I mean, I don't know if the band takes up a lot of your time, you may not be able to, you might not have the time to dedicate to it, but you can be in a band and be it, that'd be awesome. CD, maybe you could play songs at a Masonic event, because sometimes the other type of thing you can have half hawk is Masonic banquets, and those are chances to get dressed up and take your wife out or your girlfriend out, not both at the same time. Don't make that mistake, as some Masons have in the past. Yeah, you have your banquet, you have your nice food. Those can be expensive, but lawn bowls. I'm sorry, Mark. Then you should definitely, do taps at, Memorial Day service for Masons. That is awesome. 100 years old. That is really, really cool. Um, and that is wonderful to hear. Maybe you should check it out one day and go talk to them. Even just to see the building, it's really cool. Um, but they have a really cool history. And again, who knows if my very unscientific research is correct, you may enjoy Freemasonry. You may have the personality type that would enjoy. And thank you. We made it to 2,160 subscribers. So that is much appreciated. Don't forget, I will be back on tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am not. I'm 18th degree. So in some parts of the States, for their Scottish Rite, they do the entire thing over the weekend. So basically you can't stop. You get your fourth and you go right through to your 32nd. And then you can become a 33rd if you're invited at a certain point. In Ontario, we do it over weekends, and there's about 4 or 5 months between. You get your 4th to your 14th degree first, then you go 15th to 19th, 15th to 18th, and then 19th to 32nd. I stopped at the 18th because I was too busy with my day Masonic Lodge activities. I've never heard that quote before. I'm not sure who made it. Well, so I think you're Eastern Standard Time as well. I think you have to double check because I'm not positive what time zone you're in, but I think it's Eastern Standard, so you'd be 1 p.m. Also, I believe. But if you turn on your notification bell, then whenever I jump on, you should see it. But I do hope he was, I do believe. But I believe, welcome back. Good to have you. I believe, if I recall correctly, he did not become a 33rd degree Mason until after his space flight. I think he became a 33rd degree Mason after he came back down. If I recall correctly, I don't know 100% for sure. I will say Buzz Aldrin, the second man to set foot on the moon, he was a Freemason before he went up into space. And, he claimed the moon for Texas. So Texas has got to have everything, But thank you, everybody who's joined. It truly appreciate it. Hope everybody's having a great day. Please take a moment, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing, if there's anything you want to talk about. When it comes to Freemasonry, any thoughts, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. So, I've been to Texas and I love Texas. Neil A backwards spells alien. That is true, but Neil Armstrong spelled backwards spells Nostraline. So, I don't know how much you can read into that, but maybe he was an alien. Though luckily, Neil Armstrong was not a Freemason, so you can't blame Freemasons for being aliens, at least. I'm sure some will. Yeah, we do have a Texan here. Texas is a great place. Texas is a wonderful place. Nothing but respect for all of my Texas friends and Texas brothers. You guys in Texas also have a true Masonic jewel, the Texas Masonic Retirement Community. It's an incredible place, one of the best. So I absolutely loved my time there. I wanted to be a Freemason because my dad was a Freemason, and I always assumed I would join. I mean, probably, but none that I know off the top of my head. Honestly, even though like a Masonic lodge can be a gem, you know. So again, like Freemasons, that like there is no consistent Masonic religious doctrines as to like where does good and evil come from. So, again, like it would be like asking like do football players have an opinion on where good and evil come from, right? Like every football player will have a different one. There are certain consistent understandings that football players have. Like if you're a football player, you could argue, okay, you likely believe in teamwork, you likely to believe in sports, you likely believe in practice, you likely believe in physical activity, but those aren't the same thing as like beliefs in good and evil and religious beliefs, right? There'll be a million different religious beliefs on a football team, a million different philosophical beliefs and political beliefs. In the same way with Freemasonry, there are certain consistencies in terms of like, if you're a Freemason, you likely believe in respect for your fellow man. You likely believe in respect for different religious beliefs. You likely believe in the value of philosophy, for example. But questions of where does good and evil come from, those are going to be more personal and be different depending on, the Mason. Certainly for those Masons who are religious, they'll probably draw on their religious beliefs for that. Um, so I mean, I could say me personally, I think good and evil are ultimately evolutionarily based and comes from our understanding that there are things that we can do that will result in a healthier team humanity, and things we can do that result in an unhealthier team, right? This idea of like seeing a brother, this idea of evolving in groups and therefore wanting to do right by the group. So for example, if I steal from somebody, that's evil because now I've hurt the group. If I give somebody a loaf of bread, that's good because I've helped the group. So Mark, it sounds like Mark, you might be a person who does not believe in the moon landing. Sadly, Mark, I do believe in the moon landing. I guess not sadly, but it happened. So, I hope we get back there one day. I did play sports. I played a few sports and I trained to be a professional wrestler and a wrestling referee, and I also did track. I would say to the extent that there is united beliefs of Freemasonry, I would say the united beliefs of Freemasonry is a belief that all men of any faith or any political belief deserve respect. That there is things more important than religious or political differences, and those things should be celebrated, and that we can do more in groups than we can individually. And I would say one tier below, if you were to quiz all Masons, you would likely find obedience to the law of the land and charity as being consistent principles that Masons hold. Certainly, Freemasonry encourages you to be charitable and be not so much obedient per se, but be a good citizen. That is something very important amongst Freemasons. What do you find most rewarding about? I don't think they lost the technology. I just think there's no point in going back to the moon. What's on there? A bunch of rocks. And people, unfortunately, nowadays are so weird about spending money on science that, if they found out how much it, even if you spent a few million to go back to the moon, people would complain. Why aren't you buying food or whatever? Um, so what was the time in Freemasonry I felt most fulfilled? That's a good question. There's a couple. So last year, January 19th and 20th of 2024, we had two really special days at the Masonic Temple in Windsor. And I was kind of the point person who was organizing those events. That was, one of the reasons I had to spend 14 days in a row at the Masonic building. At my Masonic building, I was working on those 2 days. And we had special guests coming in from across Canada. We had guests coming in from the States. We had speeches. We had, politicians coming in. We had so many people coming in. It was the second largest Masonic event in the province. And it was just a ton of work. And also, I was doing a lot of things that a lot of people, because Masons disagree, as they should, but Masons disagree on things all the time. They disagree on where to move the craft, what the craft should do, how the craft should act. No different than, you have two Canadians will disagree on the direction a country should take, right? And I had been really pushing for my particular view of what Freemasonry should be and where it should go. And I did get a lot of pushback, which is okay. It should be that way. There should be debate. But January 19th and 20th really were 2 days that was my vision and my idea of what Freemasonry should be and how it should operate. And it was two really, really successful days. And I remember once the second day was finished, I was exhausted. I had barely slept. But I would just, you're packing up the stuff, and I just thought to myself, like, this is something really special that we managed to accomplish. And I was really, really proud of those 2 days doing it. Beyond that, probably when I convinced one of my lodges to cover the cost of a brother to travel with me to Winnipeg to attend a special event. I'd been arguing for years Masons need to. It's all the little moments where I started to see that the arguments I was making for what I think Freemasonry should be and where I think it should go were starting to gain some traction. When I have those moments, it's really, really fulfilling. So to both Courtney and Halfhawk, I guess that would be the two really fulfilling moments. If someone is drowning and refuse to help, um, uh, I would say yes. I would say yes. Whether morally or not is it like whether legally you could be held responsible is a different question. But I'd say morally you do hold some responsibility, assuming you can help. If you can't swim, then you should not jump in the water to try to save the person because then both of you will drown. But if you are able to help, um, then you should. I do. I mean, certainly Freemasonry has helped me connect with others in the sense of, and I'm happy you're here, Buffalo Chicken Wrap. I truly am. Um, you know, would it be, so, I mean, I don't think so. Again, there's no, the common beliefs are challenging to say amongst Freemasons, but in my opinion, it would be the opposite. The commonly held belief amongst Freemasons would be that patriotism is rational. In fact, again, to my opinion, in Freemasonry, we are encouraged to be good citizens, certainly in emulation ritual. Because there's different types of rituals in Freemasonry, but emulation certainly encourages the being of a good citizen. And I 100% believe in being a good citizen. So my suspicion is to be the opposite. My suspicion is they would find patriotism to be rational. They would argue, maybe blind patriotism, which is just whatever the government says you do without any questioning, might be irrational. But I think most Masons would argue patriotism is a real thing and a good thing. But I wouldn't know for sure. You'd have to ask, all the Masons. You'd have to, there's 850,000 in America, so it'd take a long time asking those questions. But I hope that helped answer. Masonic, well, good. I agree. Thumbs up. Patriotism is, I think, a good thing. I can tell you that. I think patriotism is a very rational, understandable philosophy. Not stupid patriotism, not, I really like the Franklin Delano Roosevelt quote, who was a Freemason himself, but FDR famously said, when your neighbor's house is on fire, you don't argue over the cost of a fire hose. Meaning, we shouldn't say, I shouldn't say I'm Canadian, therefore I don't care what happens in the rest of the world. I should still care about what happens in the rest of the world. I should still try to help if I can. I'm perfectly happy with my um, tax dollars going to help other countries, which is in and of itself a form of patriotism, because I do not believe Canada benefits at all if it's a well-off country on a globe of poor countries. I don't want to be well off if everybody around me is poor. I want the world to grow together, and I think it can. Uninvited, you are always invited here. I've struggled with politics with religious institutions. I mean, hopefully, and I do like history, there certainly is what is called Masonic charges, Masonic decorum. Like if somebody's being an a-hole in lodge or outside a lodge, then certainly the worship master should deal with those things and should try to resolve them. And if it's a matter of the leadership is being, D-bags about things, then there is Masonic charges that can be brought. You can talk to a district deputy, grand master. There's different levels, and potentially bring up on Masonic charges for unmasonic conduct would be bullying or toxicity. I will say though, and I'm, as guilty of this as anybody, we are human beings. We and Freemasons are not perfect. We can sometimes be toxic. I certainly have made mistakes and been harsh or angry when I shouldn't have been, especially in leadership roles. Hopefully, though, you learn from those mistakes and you get better. And I am very, very sorry, uninvited, if you ever had any experiences with toxic leadership in church or religious settings. That sucks. I don't think so. You're going to be okay, Buffalo. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the current leadership in the States, but you know what? That's okay. I still love my brethren in the States. And I think America is still a great country, and I think you guys are going to be okay. Oh, that's one of those. That's the I know that paradox that you're talking about. I forget what it's called, but that's one of those famous tire trial paradoxes. Well, I think what would actually happen is and I think everybody does, right? Um, I think that if you travel back, so I think what would actually happen is you create a separate timeline. So in 1907, if I recall correctly, actually I have the special theory of relativity tattooed on my arm. I don't know if you can see that. He creates the theory of relativity, 120 years past, whatever it is. I travel back in time. When I travel back in time, I create a new branch and a new timeline. So the person who created the original theory of relativity was the first Einstein. Then when I travel back in time, I create a branch and I create a second Albert Einstein in a second timeline. That is a timeline in which I travel back in time. And now there's like a duplicate Albert Einstein who learns it. So you could say like Alpha Albert is the creator of the theory of relativity, and then um, Beta Albert, the Albert that's created when I travel back in time and create a branch, is the gets it then. Well, so there are a lot of internal conflicts amongst Freemasonry. But that's not because Freemasons are people. But that's not, I think, what is preventing it from reaching its. I think it's the external conflicts. It's the fact that Masons are needing to spend more and more time dealing with family issues, dealing with work issues, being at work. They feel less economically secure, probably for some of the reasons that Buffalo Chicken Wrap was saying. They feel less economically secure. And as a result, they have those conflicts and they're not able to dedicate the time to Freemasonry. I mean, for anything to reach its potential, it's reliant on two things, right? The first is it's reliant on the skill and ability of the members. So imagine a football team since 2007. So imagine a football team. What allows that football team to reach its potential? The first is the natural talent and ability of the football players, which is and that's one of those things where it just kind of is what it is. Hopefully, you select for that when they're joining. You figure out who has natural talent and ability. The second thing is the dedication of the football players to the team. That dedication means, are they willing to show up for practices regularly? Are they willing to dedicate themselves, their time? And are they willing to sacrifice other things to dedicate themselves to the team? Right? And in Freemasonry right now, the talent is what it is. We're trying to be better about selecting talented members who have the talent to be Freemasons, which means ability to memorize, ability to work in groups, a certain kind of calm disposition. But then you also have the dedication, and a lot of Masons, rightly or wrongly, feel conflicted with work, feel conflicted with family, and do not have the time to dedicate themselves to making sure that they reach their full potential as Masons, and thereby their Masonic Lodge reaches its full potential. So I think that is ultimately the biggest challenge. But maybe it is more an issue of just the personalities, like I was saying, in which case maybe for us, what we as Freemasons need to do is spend more time focusing on our personalities or the personalities of the members that join. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I answered the questions well. Thank you for being here. I'm going to be going to sleep pretty soon myself. By the way, I'm just going to remind everybody one more time, please take a moment if you get the chance, hit the like and subscribe button. What do I think? I mean, I think the new generations, I mean, it's tough, right? Like I'm 40, so Johnny Rockwell, I think I talked to you years ago. Let me know if you ever want to be on the Square and Compass podcast or even in written form via Medium. I'd love to have you on to talk about your work in Freemasonry, particularly, right, your documentary on Tubi, 33rd and Beyond, but just more your general Freemasonry, Masonic experiences. I'd love to have you on to talk about that stuff. If you ever want to be in the podcast, please let me know. And as always, everybody watching this, please take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button. I try to be optimistic, Buffalo. I think the new generation is probably going to be okay. It's tough. I don't know. I don't, I mean, it can't be easy being, a newer generation in 2025. You've got what's happening in the Middle East. You've got Ukraine. You've got AI coming up. It's just got to be, I feel like it's got to be a pretty tough life. They went through COVID. A lot of younger generations were born and their first memories are 9/11. Then you had the 2008 financial crisis. So it can't be easy. So nothing but, I have a lot of respect for them and for what they're doing. I don't hate AI. I think sometimes we're unfairly negative towards AI. I mean, human beings create plenty of problems ourselves, so we probably don't need, AI will probably I don't think AI can necessarily do a worse job than humans can, put it that way. It does. It does. I mean, the new generation, like I said, I know some younger people. Again, I'm 40, so the fact I say I know some younger people freaks me out. And I think the new generation is going to be okay. I got a godchild, and they're pretty cool. All right, let's give it another, let's say, 10 minutes or so. I don't know what nothing means, Courtney. Like that's one of those questions people always ask, like, what is nothing? And to me, it's always like I don't know what nothing would actually look like. I can't conceive of nothing. So maybe something is just the way it has to be, right? Like, so even if I'm in an empty room and you say there's nothing in this room, well, that's not the case. There's the air I'm breathing and the molecules, and then there's the dimensions of the room itself. Like that's something. Like you could see the existence of a space 20 feet by 20 feet. That's a thing that exists, right? And even if you take all the air out of the room and it's a vacuum, you would still say, well, no, there's still something. It's, 20 by the dimensions of the room, 20 by 20. That is a thing that exists, as well as the walls of the room is a thing that exists. Um, what is the furthest north lodge in Canada or the closest lodge to the North Pole that is in Canada? I have no idea. I know that there is a lodge in the Yukon. You know what? I can Google that. I think the furthest north lodge in the world is in Russia, if I recall correctly. Okay, looks like Far North Lodge number 199, AF and AM, located in Inuvik, Northwest Territories. I hope that was, but I think the furthest north Masonic Lodge just anywhere is in Russia, if I recall correctly. I could be wrong. Norway. Narvik, Norway. You're welcome. Once again, Johnny, if you are the Johnny Rockwell of 33rd and Beyond, I hope maybe you'll appear on this Grunt Compass podcast. I will look up cute cat memes. I have a cat, so I don't even need to look up the memes because I already see my cat. And my cat is plenty cute. If anything, my cat might get jealous if I start looking up cute cat memes. All right, let's give it another, let's say 5 minutes or so. It's been wonderful having everybody join, though. It's absolutely been a blast. Hopefully, what you can do, Courtney, is you just fight for a better world. I mean, you try to be charitable with not just your money, but you'd be charitable with your time, charitable with your forgiveness, charitable with your kindness, charitable with the doubt. Be charitable when giving the benefit of the doubt, all that type of stuff, right? All that type of stuff is really, really important. But I think we as Freemasons, one of the things we need to do is fight for a better world. And by the way, one more time, I'm going to mention be the example you want to be is a really good example as well. Patreon.com/square and compass. Nothing wrong with that buffalo chicken. I think that's awesome. And I wish you, I mean, people who join the army deserve a lot of respect. So it would be fascinating. I agree. I can only imagine how challenging it is to run a lodge in like very cold temperatures. As I drink my coffee at midnight. I know Johnny Rockwell. If you're the Johnny Rockwell, I'm thinking if you're also a musician. We were talking earlier. One of my favorite songs is "Coffee at Midnight" by Stand Atlantic. I'm not sure if you've heard of that band, but I'm very fond of them. I think they're a great band, and I think they deserve a little bit more press than they get. So look up Stand Atlantic, "Coffee at Midnight." Oh, well, in that case, Johnny Rockwell, who's not that Johnny Rockwell, look up Stand Atlantic, Coffee at Midnight anyways. And I agree with you. It would be a really cool thing to check out. So thank you for that suggestion. I will 100% look and check out how they keep those lodges open at like very unforgiving weather. I've heard of them. I can't think if I've heard any of their songs though. I agree. It's been a blast. And thank you everybody for joining. Like one of his speeches, because I didn't like I've he's or is it one of his speeches or one of his acting monologues? I will check them out. All right, guys. I do have to get to sleep though because I do have a busy day tomorrow. So this has been fun. Maybe we're gonna do more of these 1 a.m. streams. It seems like 1 a.m. streams are popular, so maybe I'll do some more of them. All right, guys. Have a good night. Thank you for being here. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern for my Ask Us Anything stream. Good night, Johnny Rockwell. Good night, everybody.